Hi, I'm Sarah from This Curly Girl Sews. I'm a fabric lover and cycling addict. I turn tired wardrobe items into new garments, and I also sew from scratch. Today's project is actually going to be sewing from scratch, and I'm going to be sewing this lovely stretch fabric that comes from Minerva. This is denim blue colour. It's got a lovely texture in it as well, which makes it look like actually knitted fabric. So what am I going to be making with this fabric? I'm going to be making a co-ord to just lounge around in, almost like a tracksuit, but a bit more elevated. So the trousers, I've chosen this Brooklyn Pant pattern from Stylark, which is a straight pant with elasticated waist and patch pockets on the back and slant pockets on the front. I'm going to elevate it slightly by adding this black and white rikrak down the side. Now the side seam on the Brooklyn Pant is actually slightly to the front of the trousers. So what I'm going to do is actually put the rikrak down the edge of the back of the trousers so that it ends up actually down the side. The top, I'm going to be using the Paddington top pattern from Peppermint magazine, which is this top here. So it's going to be a tracksuit top with big puffy sleeves. I'm going to make the sleeves slightly longer, and I'm also going to put a thick cuff on them in self fabric, so just the other way around. And I'm also going to put a thick band around the waist to gather this in so it's a bit more sweatshirty like. And I'm going to make the neckline just a little bit closer in to my neck as well. But I'll have a tweak with the patterns and I'll share with you how I actually come up with the patterns for the top. But first, let's get started on the pants. So first of all, I need to decide which direction I want to have the fabric. Now, I always think of these as vines when I knit them. So I want them growing up. So I want this to be the top and this to be the bottom of the fabric. So if we get pattern pieces and lay them out. So we have the back of the pants there. We have the front of the pants here. So they both have to be up the same way because you want it growing in the same direction on both legs. And then we have a waistband and pocket. I'm going to measure the pattern pieces first, which is what I always do just to make sure there's going to be no surprises when I actually cut it out and it's not going to fit me. So if we look at the seam allowance and measure the seam allowance, actually I want the hips, so that's going to be like there. So this is a good fit for me, and then we can cut the other pieces out from further down the fabric. So I've laid the pattern now onto the fabric. I'm just going to pin it on and then cut it out. I'm going to measure the length of the rikrak that I need, so make it slightly longer at the top and down the back of the back section of the pattern, and then make it slightly longer at the base as well, and cut two of those, obviously one for each leg. And whilst you're here, you can mark the pocket placement as well. So if you just put a pin in where the pocket extremities or markings are, like so, and then get a washable pen. I use the Crayola washable pens because they wash out basically. The fabric marker will do, and then basically what you're going to be doing is just mark where the pin goes into the fabric at all of the points, like so. Remove your pattern piece and then put pins in where the marks are, and then you can do the other side and mark the markings onto the other piece of the back piece as well, so you know exactly where your pocket's going to be. So then you can construct your pocket and actually sew the pocket on, and then you can sew the rikrak. You need to remember your seam allowance and then sew it just outside the seam allowance so that it actually goes down the side of the pant nice and neatly. I've got my back pocket piece. I can take the pattern piece off. You can look at the markings. It basically has a seam allowance around the sides and the bottom point, and then a slightly larger seam at the top. So what you need to do first of all is just turn over the top for the seam allowance. With this stretch fabric it doesn't fray, so you've got no danger of anything happening to it, and basically just sew along to do the top of the pocket on both pockets, and then you need to pin the seam allowance under and pin it onto the pocket placement where you've marked it on the back pieces. To start sewing, I'm just going to change my needle to a jersey needle I'm using, but you can use a ballpoint needle or a stretch needle. They all pretty much do the same thing. So you just need to fold over the seam allowance all the way around and pin it from the other side if you can. So I've pinned my trim all the way down through the edge, about 2 centimetres from the edge, so that I can have a seam allowance, and then it will be 1 centimetre from the actual side seam, which means it will be on the side rather than slightly round to the front. And I've also pinned my pocket on, so I'm just going to sew that now on both back pieces. Next we're going to do the front pocket. So I've just overlocked across that edge there. That's then going to be folded underneath there and secured so that that's basically tucked under like that. Then what you're going to do, with the wrong side up, with the right side down, you're basically going to be securing that then around there. So I will overlock around the edge of the pocket bag as well, just so that it's a bit tidier. I mean, it's not going to fray, so it's not a big deal, but I will just overlock it because I like the tidiness of it. And then basically you've got your pocket in there, and the bag is actually sewn where it's sewn to the front. So next step is to sew the inner thighs together. So you take a front and a back piece and sew all the way down the inside leg, and then do the same with the other front and back piece, and then you're going to basically join them around the front and back crotch area. Next you get your pieces that you've just sewn together so that you've got your back and front attached and your back and front attached. You lay the other front onto that front so they're right sides together, and then the back so that they're right sides together. Line them up at the crotch and then pin round the whole curve of the back and front crotch, and then you're going to stitch all the way around the crotch area. So next is a waistband, so I'm just going to mark the centre of the band before I start so that I know where to fold it and where to pin the elastic. So I've just marked the centre, as you can see. 3 centimetre elastic I'm going to put inside, so I just attach that inside, and then mark the centre back, centre front, and then both the sides as well, so I can line up the seams on the front and sides and back on the waistband so that it's distributed evenly around the waist. So line up the back seam with the seam on the waistband, and then the front seam with the mark that you've made on the waistband, and then the side seams as well. So you're basically going to attach it all the way around the top of the trousers, matching up the marks that you've made on the waistband. So I'll just pin it round now, and then we're going to sew that all the way around, stretching the trouser out a little bit so that it meets the actual size of the waistband as you sew it. So now the trousers are complete, As you can see, it's all nice and neat. The waistband is attached, the pockets, the rikrak down the side, and I've attached a little label as well there for you to see. And the inside is all neat as well. So they're all finished. So I hope you enjoyed the filming of these trousers, the Brooklyn stretch pants. They're really comfy and I'm really enjoying wearing them. This is part 1, obviously, of the co-ord. Part 2 is coming up and it's a very hacked version of the Paddington top. I'll put a link below once I've uploaded the part 2 so that you can watch part 1 and part 2. Part 2 is going to be really interesting because I'm actually going to show you how to hack the pattern as well. So that's one to watch. So make sure you subscribe below so that you see when I upload that next video. Don't forget to like this video if you do like it, obviously. And I'd really love you to subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to build my numbers at the moment, so it enables me to make loads more content for you. So I'll see you guys soon.